Hey guys, this is Dr. Aeronautics. We are here in the XR-2 again for the 6th tutorial of Orbiter 2010, XR-2 Ravenstar. We're getting really close to when I finally am going to do my long sought after Voyager videos. Not after the Voyager space probes, but, you know, just having a space voyage. You'll see what I mean soon enough. Anyway, today we're going to cover Airlock Operations, EVAs, which are extravehicular activities, UMMU Turbopacks, crew transfers, as well as bailing out. Okay, now the airlock system is actually a little bit more simple to operate when you compare it to the Delta Glider 4. With the notable exception being that you need the APU running in order to operate. So I control up arrow to the upper panel here, and if I go over to the nose cone and try to activate the switch,
APU offline.
you'll see on the system status display we have a fault warning APU is offline with no hydraulic pressure. And the nose cone, as well as the outer door and the inner door, are used to go in and out. So the airlock door can be used to transfer, it's in the nose cone here, it can be used to transfer people onto EVAs as well as loading up the first time, and if you're docked it allows you to transfer personnel while docked. So we're sitting on the ground here, which means that the interior of the system is just about roughly the same pressure is inside. So step one is to power up the APU and make sure you see that APU online. So that's good. That means we have hydraulic pressure. So now we're going to press the open nose cone button, and that's going to start to open. While that is opening, I can actually pull up the data HUD, which is control down arrow to get to the middle screen, and it's this button over here that says data HUD hold. And there's actually some what's the word I'm looking for? Keyboard shortcuts. So Control K opens the nose cone, Control O and Alt O toggles the outer and inner airlocks. So let's try the Control O command for our outer door, which this is the outer door visible right now. So what is it? Control O. There it goes. Airlock outer door opening. So now you can actually see inside to the airlock, to the inner door. So that's fully open now. So this is, whoops, a little too far. This is inside the airlock now. And we've only got one more door to go until we've actually opened this ship to the atmosphere. So if I press F8 and go to the three-dimension, what's it called, virtual cockpit, and then control back arrow, you can actually see it right here. This is the airlock from the inside. We were just previously up there. Now if I control right arrow, that actually sits me in the airlock itself. So this right here is the frame to the outer door, and this is the inner door. So I think the other one was Alt O. Yep, there we go. So this
Using external O2.
This is the inner airlock door opening, and the voice call out is just an FYI to let you know, hey, your ship is open to atmosphere, and the good thing is it's Earth, which means that we don't use consumption. So the ship is now configured so that we can offload crew. If I go back up to the top here using the control arrow keys and hit F8 twice, we're back to the cockpit. So now if I hit control down arrow and look at the system status display for the oxygen system, you'll notice in the upper right here where it says oxygen remaining is now frozen in time. It's not ticking. And the reason for that is because we are open to the atmosphere, and the ship is smart enough to realize, hey, if you're on Earth and your airlock door is open, there's no use running the oxygen. You're just creating oxygen for the Earth, which, although it's something that might be considered
Information. APU running.
may be considered generous. It doesn't accomplish spaceflight. So ground EVAs, here's how you do it. You select the person that you want to do up at the top here with these arrow points. So let's EVA Kara Miller, right? So we select them. She happens to be slot number 1. There are 14 people aboard the craft, which is the maximum. I know that they didn't show up in the virtual cockpit, unfortunately. It only shows the people in the front of the cockpit here, unfortunately. But there's a lot of good features with the system. One thing I will note is you notice it said APU running with no load, and that was a system alert. So we actually don't need the APU running when the airlock doors or nose cone are not being actuated. So I've actually shut that down. So slot 0 plus 13 slots give us our 14. We'll navigate to Kara Miller, which happens to be number 1, and I want to EVA her.
Egress successful.
All you need to do is press the button. You'll get a message from the Sally Beaumont, or is it Beaumont? I don't know which one, but anyway, you get a readout from our computer voice and a corresponding system status message that says Kara Miller is on EVA. And if we look over, the seat is empty. And if we go down here, there she is. She just hopped out. So pressing F1 now, we're actually outside the craft, and here she is. The XR-2 meshes use very futuristic spacesuits that are probably a little bit too revealing, but whatever. So the way we can actually access her controls is by pressing F3 to pull up the select spacecraft. And UMMU are basically designed the same way that spacecraft are. So what you're really doing is controlling the spacecraft of Kara Miller, which right now she is a spacecraft in the sense that she's in a suit, but we'll discuss that a little bit later. So select her, press OK. Okay, and now you can hear her breathing. So I'm going to press O a couple times to get our, just once is good enough, to get our nav HUD into something that's more readable in the Earth atmosphere. So we're now controlling Kara, and I'm going to make it quick because this isn't a UMMU tutorial. But the first thing you want to do, if you believe that you're either in a breathable atmosphere, number 1, and you can configure that. Maybe I'll do a tutorial on how to configure a UMMU breathable planet. Or 2, you are inside a habitat, and you believe that it's safe to take off your suit. Do not take off your suit. Press Alt-X to analyze the atmosphere.
Analyzing. Atmospheric pressure nominal.
Okay, and if you hear that, it means that it's safe to breathe. You hold Shift and press X, and we've just removed the spacesuit, and it defaults to a. I love this. instant astronaut change. Oh man, yeah. So the suits only control when you're wearing the suit. Otherwise, it's just using the default UMMU texture. So from here, you can use the numpad key 8 for 1, 2, 3, 6, and back to 8 again to do basically anything that you would need to do in a James Bond movie, except jump. To jump, you need to put your spacesuit on so that you can use your RCS system. So that's pretty much it. All we need to do now is walk up to the airlock and press the E key.
Too far from airlock.
If you're too far from the airlock, you're going to get that reading. Now, don't worry if it looks like you're right under it. When I say you need to be right under it, you need to be right under it. Now, let's say you were a num-num and did Shift X, and you hear and you realize, oh my god, my UMMU is dying. Shift X puts the suit back on. Now, please note that because you take the suit off and put the suit back on, Kara Miller has evolved yet again to become an ESA astronaut. So, like I was saying, when I say close to the airlock, I mean literally right under it. To be honest, like, it's not like it matters, but because you can keep pressing E, but the only way to guarantee you won't get it too far from the airlock is to literally put your face of the visor directly under the outer door and then press E. Okay, and now that we've pressed E, you'll see the system status message up here and in the middle panel. Crew member Kara Miller ingressed successfully. And when you ingress a crew, it fills the slot that they ingressed in, which means the last person to ingress is the highest number on the list. So you notice Kara Miller came in as 13. Lee Nash is still 0, but now Carson Beckett is in the number 1 slot. So if I go back to F8, she's back to normal. Good. Just a short bit of stuff from 2001 Space Odyssey. Now let's talk how to actually close the system here. So I'm going to actually do the APU again because we're going to actuate some doors. So the APU is online. That's what we want to see. We're going to close the inner airlock door. It really doesn't matter what order you pick, but I like to do inner door first because it seals the cabin from the inside out rather than from the outside in. That's just a personal, based on my experience, that's what I like going. Now you can work 2 doors at once, so you can close your outer and your inner doors, but I don't like to do that because number 1, it makes things less boring.
Using onboard O2.
Number 2,
Information. APU fuel 80%.
Number 2, I really like to actuate, check, verify in that order, and if you do 2 at once, it creates a distraction, as well as would also in real life create a higher power draw in amperage, as well as a strain on the hydraulic system, so you would have a drop in hydraulic pressure. There's just really no reason to do it. That being said, you can. Now, I believe the only place that you can't do this is if you have an outer door open and try to close the nose cone. Oh, no. So let's see here.
Warning.
Yeah.
Nose cone is closed.
So it's actually
outer door is locked.
So it's actually smart enough to reverse the airlock door's operation when you close the nose cone. But yes, when your nose cone is closed, you won't be able to open your airlock door. That being said, no, that is something else that we'll get into. Okay, so that's it for ground. Now we'll talk about space. Okay, so here we are in medium Earth orbit now. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to null your rotation rates. Now keep in mind that if you activate the prograde or retrograde on autopilots, your prograde and retrograde velocity vectors are changing all the time, which means that's not necessarily a stop. The most realistic thing to do would be to hit the kill rotation. Now this theoretically isn't needed, and you could play a game with how easy or difficult it is to ingress or egress to a spinning spacecraft, but that's not realistic that anyone in space would ever want to do, because that's how people die. But if you notice now, I've killed our rotation, so the background stars pretty much are not moving, but our vector is. So that's the kind of rotation that we want to null out, because if you actually EVA outside the craft, you will find over the span of minutes that it's spinning, and that can actually disorient you as well. So again, the first step is to power up the APU, whether you do it on ground or space. And then we're going to go up here and open our nose cone. I'm going to have to turn that on. It's going to... These dumb bots are getting so horrible. Okay, that's disabled. Yeah, the YouTube bots are getting really good with copyrighting music. I do not want to get flagged, so
Gear
turn that
up.
off. I'm also going to bring up the gear because no reason to have it down.
Gear up and locked.
And because I did a deployment, I'm now going to hit the kill rotation, which is 5 again, the number pad 5, the kill rotation autopilot. And now we should be good. So we've got our outer and our inner doors. Now, let's try to open our outer door and see what happens.
Warning. Decompression danger. Outer door is locked.
See, so it says chamber pressure exceeds external pressure. Outer door is locked. So basically the way these locking mechanisms work is it's going to allow the door that shares the pressure of the airlock to open. The airlock is pressurized right now. The way we know it's pressurized, because if we go up to the menu bar here, up here it'll say your chamber pressurized, and it says air. Air means that there's air in the airlock. So if we go down to the airlock here,
APU running.
there is air in here. That's the cabin. The cabin has air in it because we're still alive. Therefore, there's air in the cabin. There's air in the airlock, so the inner door can open. There's air in the airlock. That's the outer door. Space is beyond the outer door. Space does not have air. Air, no air. They do not share. The outer door refuses to open, and we just saw that. Now, there is a way to override that. You select
Warning.
this.
Airlock safety interlocks disabled.
Safety interlock, and now it will allow you to open the outer door. But be very careful what you're doing, because first of all, it causes tremendous explosive stress on the inner door, so I don't recommend emptying your airlock like that, because that's basically the equivalent of popping a balloon
Information.
to get rid of the excess
APU
pressure.
running.
Again, do not recommend doing that. So I'm not even going to
Airlock safety interlocks enabled.
because I've never had to force it open. So getting back on the path of correct options, you've opened your nose cone, you've killed your rotation, your APU is on. The next thing to do is to load up your crew member. Now this is an optional step, so it's the functionality is not required, but we haven't opened the airlock at all, right? So what would happen in real life is we would open the inner door, which I said would not resist opening. We're going to wait for that to open. So pretending that I am the crew member now, I'm going to control arrow to get into the airlock now. And now I can close the airlock door, the inner door with Alt-O. And now the inner door is closing. Again, this is an optional step. Now I'm pressing F8 again and going back to the system up here. Now we are pretending to be an external crew member. So at this point, we're ready to evacuate the airlock. So this is what's required again. This chamber where it says pressurize and evacuate, press the lower section for evacuate.
Airlock depressurizing.
And so now you can hear the air being sucked out of the airlock. It's going vacuum. And you better hope that that crew member had their spacesuit on when that chamber started depressurizing.
Airlock pressure 0 psi.
Okay, so when you hear that, you know your airlock is evacuated. Now I know that's a lot faster than it does in real
Information.
life.
APU running.
Oh man, those callouts are so annoying. You can actually disable those if you want, but normally when I'm doing a mission, I like to know right away because I do long missions and my APU fuel is usually the first thing to go. So anyway, spacecraft in the real world will typically take tens of minutes, if not hours, to depressurize. So, you know, I believe that's also something that you can change in the defaults as well, and I might do that with the tutorials and just to simulate it in real life. Okay. So let's play this game again, shall we? We're going to go back into the airlock. The chamber said vacuum. There is vacuum in the airlock. Space is outside the outer door. Space is vacuum. There's vacuum out there. There's vacuum in the airlock. The outer door is between the two. The outer door will open. There's vacuum in the airlock. There's air in the ship because
APU
people
running.
are alive. This is the inner door separating air from vacuum. Air is not vacuum, which means the inner door will not open. And if we go up here and try to open our inner door,
Warning. Chamber not pressurized. Inner door is locked.
that's letting you know that if you open the inner door, like I said earlier, if you open the outer door and the airlock is pressurized, you're blowing excess air into space and creating a tremendous stress on the inner door. However, if you open the inner door with a vacuum in the airlock, you will barotraumatically either severely damage or kill the crew, because basically the interior is about 14.7 psi and maybe
Information.
10% of the volume
APU running.
that's in here is in the airlock, which means you will instantly, like at the speed of a popping balloon, go from sea level pressure to about pressure at 6,000 feet. And it's going to rupture your eardrums, to say the least. At worst, it'll kill. So, remember I said the outer door will open? Let's try it. There it goes. So now we've exposed the airlock to space. Now I said that step was optional, because to be honest, we could pick anybody we want. But we're going to go with, we're going to pretend Karen Miller jumped in there. We're going to EVA Karen Miller. So we're going to select her, EVA.
Egress successful.
It says Karen Miller on EVA, so we know that she's on EVA. And she's somewhere down there that you can't see right now, but it's the exact same thing to take control. F3, select her, press OK. And now you can hear her breathing. And as you can probably guess, we do not want to take that space off. So, if you know your UMMU controls, you can now start to maneuver the UMMU. Otherwise, if you don't know how to fly around, get back into the craft. So here's the front of our ship right here. Just use a bit of RCS there. Okay, next we're going to talk about UMMU Turbopacks, which is a really cool feature. Okay, so what are Turbopacks exactly? Turbopacks are basically what you would see in the 1950s sci-fi for jetpacks. They literally allow you to fly around at high speed. You can see if I work the
Translation.
RCS in translation mode, you'll notice that we get hardly any movement, right? That's RCS in translation. Hardly any.
Rotation.
So we have another way of getting around a lot faster. So F3, get back to the XR-2, select it. Now control down arrow to go to the lower panel. And towards the lower left, near this dock release, you have EVA Turbopack Management. And right now it says Kara, and then Lee. So there's three that you can choose from. There's a Kara model, a Lee model, and then a standard model. So because we've EVA'd Kara, we'll deploy the Kara Turbopack, and it allows you to deploy other ones. So just hit this deploy button, and you just get the message that it's deployed. So F3, now go back to Kara, and let's see, it's going to be somewhere in the vicinity. There it is. So it actually happens to be directly behind us.
Translation. Rotation.
Okay. And there it is.
Translation.
So we'll just drift forward to grab it here. Okay, we're basically up to the pack now, so if I press B, B will put it on. Now, have you heard the saying, a lot of power comes with a lot of responsibility? Well, that is definitely true for the turbo pack. So, for help, press H 5 times to go to page number 5 of the UMMU. And that gives you all the instructions that you need for the turbo packs. You can actually even hover with these things too, which is really, really, really cool. So, anyway, let's go ahead and exit.
Rotation.
And we'll rotate around just a bit here. You'll notice now the rotation rate is a little bit different now that we have the turbo pack on. Here's the ship.
Translation.
Okay, so I just fired the...
Rotation.
I just fired the system here. Now that would... Yeah, we bumped into the craft, unfortunately. The tutorial's not how to fly a turbo pack, it's how to... what's the word? It's how to work the EPAs. But this kind of gives you an idea of what you can do with it.
Translation.
So let's go to translation and fix some things before we end up killing ourselves out here. I can guarantee you that Lee Nash would not be happy about what just happened. But just try it out in a safe environment like this before you go killing yourself on the surface of this. So, actually I forgot. We need to demonstrate storing. So, it's optional. If you want to remove it from your back, you can press B, and that disconnects it. Otherwise, if you don't want to take it off, then you go into the XR-2, and the XR-2 Ravenstar will take it back. Stow all. And then you'll see one turbo pack stowed. Basically, the way this thing works is it scans the area for any turbo packs that are within 25 meters of the entrance, hence the airlock of the ship, and collects them. So let's go back to Kara, and you'll notice she doesn't have her turbo pack anymore. That's been stowed. We might be close enough to the airlock. Press E now.
Too far from airlock.
Nope. See what you mean?
Rotation. Translation.
That works. Okay, so press E again. If it doesn't work, get closer until E works. Okay, so now we're going to control up arrow here. And this is how to get back to normal, right? Because you don't want to leave your ship with an airlock which is, you know, depressurized and open to vacuum. That's just bad practice. So we're going to power up the APU, like I said you need to do. And now you're going to close the outer door. At this point, you can pressurize the chamber.
Airlock pressurizing.
Now, keep in mind, it says Kara Miller's already aboard, even though in real life she would be in the airlock. So this next step, like the first step, is optional. You don't have to do it, but I like to do it because it's realistic. You need to open the door so that they're not stuck in the airlock, like a jail cell.
Airlock pressure 14.7 psi.
Ah, yes, American units. Well, guys, 14.7 psi happens to be 760 torr, 1 bar, 1 atmosphere. What is it? 1,000 1,013 millibars, 101 kilopascals. You get it. 1 atmosphere. 14.7 psi is 1 atmosphere.
Information. APU running.
So now that we're pressurized, we can open the inner door and nothing happens. Nothing bad happens.
Information. APU fuel 70%.
Right, so then at this point the person would come in. You can then close the inner door. And then finish by closing your nose cone. Okay, once your nose cone's closed, there's no hydraulic load, so at that point you can disable the AP. And that's it. We're back to the way we were, just cruising in space. You can go years in this configuration if your ship is loaded properly. Now, if you're curious, doing this on the surface of a body, like for example the Moon or Mars, which is significantly lower, you can assume that it's vacuum out there and perform exactly the same procedure. The only difference is your landing gear will be down. Everything else is exactly the same. So it's kind of a synthesis of what we did on the ground as well in space. Okay, so we're now on the surface of Titan, and the reason we're here is to basically run through what that procedure looks like, but also a caveat that exists for higher density planets in the solar system. The only two planets where this is theoretically possible using modern technology is Titan as well as Venus, and Venus even by a stretch. In theory, you could land one of these on a Cloud City platform that's floating in the atmospheres of the gas giants, but so far I haven't figured out how to do that in orbit of that. If I can figure out how to land on a platform, that'll completely revolutionize. Oh my gosh, I build cities in the lower cloud deck of Jupiter. It'd be fantastic. Okay, so let's go through this procedure for Titan. You're going to turn your APU on. And next you're going to open the nose cone. Let's see if... yeah, there's Jupiter and the Sun. Ah, there it is. That's Saturn. Okay, so nose cone is open. Now, this is where it's different, right? For an airless body, the Moon, Mars, Ganymede, Triton, they all work this way. You would then evacuate the airlock and then open the outer door. But if you look at our handy-dandy gauge down here, you'll see that our static pressure on the center right here is 22.3638 psi. That's about an atmosphere and a half, which means that compared with the outside, we're in a vacuum. So in real life, what you would do is you would open a relief valve in your outer door to allow pressure to go up. But
Information.
that doesn't happen in
APU running.
real life. So what we're going to do is we're going to open the outer door. And if this happened in real life, it would kind of be like popping a cork. It would just go, and then as soon as you did that, you would hear a rush of air going inside, and you may feel some buffeting as the titanium air rushes in there. to fill the seating back. Now, this is normally where you'd want to perform your EVA. So let's go ahead and do it with Kara Miller.
Egress successful.
So she's now standing on the surface of Titan. Now, interestingly enough, you would think that the system would be smart enough to know not to open the inner airlock door. Let's see what happens if we press Alt-O. Oh no, it's not. So you can see, you know, in real life that would have, we wouldn't be able to shut the door again, because once you unlatch it, the air is going to force itself in, and let's see what the temperature is right now. Oh, we're not using an upgraded atmospheric model. Okay, well, that's the temperature in Kelvin, right? Forget that we're reading it in Fahrenheit. Okay, maybe not that cold. It's about 95 degrees above absolute zero. It's incredibly cold. In fact, the mountains here are made of watermelons. Okay, so the same thing goes, right? I'm gonna go back to controlling her. Now notice if I do Alt-X.
Analyzing. Warning. Low atmospheric pressure.
Now it's telling us that the atmosphere is composed of 0% oxygen. So that means if you take the suit off, you're gonna die. So don't do it. Also, the temperature reading, you'll know this is wrong too, but that's because, to be honest, maybe I should create it. You know what? I should probably do that. Create an upgraded atmosphere for Titan. So I've just ingressed by pressing E and getting close to the airlock. I now can power on the APU. There's no need to pressurize because there's air in there. At this point, we'll close the airlock door, open our imaginary relief valve, which we can't do, and open the inner airlock door, and then close the nose cone door, and then turn the APU on. So assuming the nose cone was closed, that's pretty much all you need to know for operating the airlocks. Now, note that the cabin hatch here, which is atop the ship right here, well, if you were in space, you should never ever use it, because opening there is no airlock for that hatch, which means there's no ability to stop it from sucking air out of the craft. So that's it right there. It's one door. You open that one door and you're exposing, at least in space, you're exposing the craft to vacuum. You don't want to do that. Likewise, on Titan, you also wouldn't want to do it, but it's not going to override.
APU offline.
So it would have done it. So keep in mind, don't do that. Especially if you landed on Venus or something. Do not open that cabin hatch, because let me tell you, once it's open, I'm sorry, but the seal has melted off. You will not be able to shut it again. Okay. Enough about airlocks. Okay, and in case you were wondering, yes, it is possible to get these two awesome ships to kiss. In fact, we're in orbit now around Titan, and the Delta Glider 4 is connected to the XR-2 Ravenstar to create one super awesome mass of exploration. So, in order to transfer the crew, and yes, it's possible, from one ship to another, two things have to happen. The outer door of one ship has to be open, and the outer door of another ship has to be open. So we're actually controlling the Delta Glider 4 right now. So this is kind of external to the tutorial because it's not controlling the XR-2 Ravenstar. But you'll notice right now we've got a green box around this dock window. That means that the the Delta Glider 4 recognizes that we are docked. So I can open the outer door. Now remember what I said before, the opening the doors opening the inner doors is an optional step, but we can do it anyway because we're docked, so it's perfectly safe. We're simply going to exchange atmosphere with the ship. So our airlocks are pressurized. The only part of the two ships that are not pressurized is this little gap between the outer door of the XR-2 and the outer door of the Delta Glider 4. So our outer door is open now. We're going to take control of the XR-2 Ravenstar. So now we're in the other ship. We're going to power on our APU. Note that we are docked, so in other words, this has already forced us to open the nose cone. So far, that's been it. It'll let us open the outer door because we're docked. Again, this is optional, but I mean, what fun is there in not creating a party tunnel between the spacecraft, eh?
Using external O2.
Yeah, and that external O2 is basically telling us, hey, your atmosphere is now exchanging with the Delta Glider 4s. So if I come down now into the airlock, you can now see all the way from our ship up into the Delta Glider 4, meaning crew transfer is quite possible. So we'll send Kara Miller down the party tunnel again with an EVA.
Crew member transferred successfully.
And so now we get the crew member transfer successfully message. So now if I switch over to the Delta Glider 4, so now I'm in that, and unfortunately this doesn't have a 3D cockpit. So it really only allows us to view inside, but I could tell you that there was a pilot and a passenger before, and now I can see a pilot and two passengers. So we know somebody else is in there. Let's see. If we go down to the crew management window, let's see. Francis, Peter, there she is, Kara Miller, in the Delta Glider 4. So now if we hit the EVA, now you'll see Kara Miller transferred to docked ship, and suddenly there she is, back in the XR-2. When you're done, don't forget to shut the outer airlock doors of both ships, or you will be very sorry. Now, I do not believe the XR-2 has a protective docking release, but the Delta Glider 4 does. If you're not allowed, it will not. It will basically complain about undocking. Okay, so that's enough for crew transfer. Okay, so for the last segment, we're going to demonstrate the ability to bail out. I didn't even know this was actually a feature of the XR-2 until not too long ago. The Delta Glider 4 has the ability that if you press escape 3 times and the ejection seat is armed, a set of pyrotechnics will activate to blow the crew as well as panels out of the craft, where they can then parachute to a safe land. The space shuttle had something similar to that. It's more of like a ditch, though, than a bailout. They had a ditch mode where basically they would get really low, and not too low, but really slow, so that you're sufficiently in the atmosphere and get slow enough and people can just start jumping out of the hatch. Basically, that's the idea. So let's say that we didn't have enough fuel to reach orbit. We do, but let's say that we didn't. And now let's take off. And just to be very clear about this, we've got
knots.
just Lee on board. Nobody else is on board.
V1. Rotate.
So let's pretend that we didn't know what speed we take off, right? So, you know, like the regular Delta Glider, what, 200 meters per
Warning.
second? That's
Gear
right.
deployed.
Right? And we're just going to ignore that gear warning.
Warning.
Oh,
Gear
no.
failure.
So our gear has been destroyed and crushed into the craft. We can't take off, and we can't make orbit, and we don't like the idea of landing. So here's what you want to do. You want to get low enough in the atmosphere where you can breathe. So, but you also want long enough to open the parachute. So what I recommend is 1 kilometer. And then what you want to do is you want to slow the craft down as much as you can. And here's why. If I go to the select surface, you'll see the dynamic pressure right now is 40 kilopascal. And if I come down here, you can only ditch through the airlock, which means we need the nose cone to open. That's limited at 32 kilopascal, which means when we hit 32, we can open it and actually get it open so that we can actually ditch. Okay, we're under 32. We're going to open the nose cone.
Warning, nose cone open. Warning, nose cone open.
Okay, so we're going to start pitching up now, but that's okay.
Warning,
we actually want to
nose
slow the
cone
craft down.
open.
And the key is to get it right when you're about to stall. So open the outer door next. If you need to, use some RCS to control which direction you're facing. Okay, everything is good now. Cut the engines and bail out by pressing EVA.
Egress successful.
And we're out. Let's see, where's the... Okay. And our parachute deploys automatically. We didn't have to do anything. We've now bailed out of our craft, and as you can see, you want to cut the engines of the XR-2 because it's going to fall, right? You know, that's kind of a bad idea to turn it on. As it falls, like all sorts of nasty things are going to be happening to it, right? The like bits and pieces of it are going to be ripped off and stuff. If we're lucky, we'll actually be able to see the wreckage occur. Let's see. Looking for the... there's the shadow. Okay, there it goes. Impact in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 now. Okay, so there it is. The XR-2 has just collided with the surface of the Earth. It is no doubt destroyed. However, we are live. And we're just suspended on a parachute here. And if I press T, things will move a little bit faster here. See here, make sure.
Translation.
There we go. Translation mode. So this is kind of similar to paragliding where you can somewhat steer yourself. So when I do this, we're actually drifting somewhat towards the land. But there's no way we're going to have enough fuel to do it all the way. But the hope is to try to get yourself closer to the land. Now, of course, in a real bailout, you would also want the ability to you would also want the ability to have a life raft. So you can actually store those. They are UCGO cargoes. And what you would do is you would want to deploy that cargo first. But that's something that's probably unnecessarily advanced. This is probably enough to get the idea. Well, I'm surprised we haven't run out of fuel yet. Okay, we're getting close to the surface of the ocean now, and you can see it didn't move us very far, but whatever. So I'm actually going to stop translating at this point. And we'll go into real time. Now take the time warp out. And we're going to land shortly, and we should be totally alright. So this only works in a dense atmosphere, so don't do this kind of thing anywhere else. There we go. Successful splashdown.
Analyzing. Atmospheric pressure nominal.
Okay, ditch the spacesuit because spacesuits will weigh you down and there's no need to drown because we're okay. and of course the mesh is going to unload. So let's see how far we are right here. We are actually swimming distance from shore. It's about 1.5 miles, so as long as there's no rip currents, we would probably be able to make it back. But I would imagine being this close to a major inlet on the Florida coast, some boat coming in or out of that probably saw that crash and probably saw my parachute for the 5 or so minutes that it was deployed. So there's a good chance that we would have come out alive in this scenario, which is great, right? That's exactly what you want to happen. And that's the last thing we're going to cover in this episode. So this has been Dr. Aeronautics, and I will see you guys next time for the next XR2 tutorial. Bye-bye.